Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady, checking in with an August weekly garden tour. As you can see behind me, the stand of native Phlox paniculata bright eyes is doing its thing, and the swallowtails are really happy to be gathering nectar from it. And it's a bit sweltering. We did get 7 inches of rain from Hurricane Debbie this week, but amazingly, plants are already starting to wilt and need to be watered. So that 7 inches didn't stick in the garden very long, not long enough. But let me turn this camera around so I can give you a close-up view of how everything is growing out here in my front gardens in Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. This is exactly what August is all about. Butterflies, steamy temperatures, and generally waiting till the sun goes down to get anything accomplished in the garden. But I am really happy to see that this stand of phlox bounced back. You know, we did end up giving this a fair amount of water during the June drought. Now it's just, well, it's all my dreams come true. I love when there's multiple butterflies at once. Anywhere that you stand, you can see them moving. And I did get this bed weeded pretty significantly between the Itea and the turf grass. Both the centipede, which I agree is easier to pull out. The centipede is sort of more on the surface. It's the common Bermuda that's mixed in that runs into the beds, and it's like wiregrass. That's actually what one of its common names is. But I'm glad to have tackled this, and it gave me a little confidence to go next door and try and deal with some of the Bermuda grass that's invading those beds. I've put out a whole bunch of buckwheat seed, and that should be germinating probably in the next couple of days. I probably do need to go ahead and run a sprinkler just to get all that seed settled in. I did some big cutbacks on the big front bed, and I think that's gonna work out well. Because so many of the plants had grown so tall and they were flopping. And then of course some of the plants just like fell over completely and had to get pruned in order to still be sustainable for the rest of the growing season. I'm really excited that Thailand giant colocasia, which was planted last year, has successfully overwintered and is starting to get some size. I mean, not big compared to what it looked like a year ago, but it's pretty exciting. I do plan on digging those colocasias up and trying to overwinter them in the greenhouse this winter. So that'll be a fun experiment. I'm not sure if the greenhouse will be warm enough for them, but it's worth a shot. I'm still really loving this white Senorita Blanca Cleome from Proven Winners. And you know what I really like about it is it's constantly flowering. It doesn't set seed, and it doesn't have thorns. So if you like Cleome but don't like that it seeds heavily, you should definitely consider growing this variety next year. I'm really impressed with it. Usually Cleome kind of gets ugly. You kind of cut it down. It's not that long of a season for an annual, but this one I'm really impressed with. Well, not much to report in the shrub borders. The Cali Carpa have not started to color up yet, but you can see lots of good berries coming on the Cali Carpas. And, I've got to say, I do zero maintenance on these shrub borders. They've been planted since 2011, so they're very well established. I have like this ginkgo that honestly hasn't grown, I don't think, since I planted it. Like, I planted it as a 7-gallon, and it doesn't really ever put on any new growth. It just stays the same size. I'm not really opposed to it. I just think it's kind of funny. I don't talk about the ginkgo all that often, but there it is. I think that's one called Chi Chi. And I did want to show you the Adina rubella, which is basically the Asian version of buttonbush or cephalanthus. It's starting to bloom. Well, that's not very showy right now, but there have been some blooms on it. Now this is a bush that I've been cutting all the way to the ground. I essentially grow it as a perennial instead of a shrub because it can get really tall and lanky and crazy. But it's kind of an interesting plant for its little round ball that looks like a COVID DNA. And I like the texture against the forsythias and other shrubs that are planted in here. And coming out to the big border at the road, I have some hopes that we're actually going to get this weeded this week. So I'll just show you some of the big problems, not big problems, but things we need to be paying attention to. We need to cut out any weedy trees. There's quite a few. These are all relatively large, so they're difficult to completely pull out. And that's all from birds depositing seed. I know I've mentioned it before, but like you can see there's a calicarpa growing here that's bird planted. It's a dogwood planted here, bird planted. And yeah, just some general weeding is needed to be done. Again, I don't give these borders any attention at all. I need to do some cutbacks here just to make it so that you don't poke your eye out when you're mowing. I never did deal with the Lespedeza. You can see those ugly old stalks that died are still here. Maybe, I mean, they're easy enough to do by hand, so we might come through and just clean this up. You know, and again, I've said I'm getting ready to be into fall open garden mode. People park out here, and this is the first impression of the garden, so it just needs a little love. Here's again that Adina rubella that I was just showing you before. And you can see those are really cool flowers that it has, and butterflies love it, just like they love cephalanthus. Lots of weeding. We have a lot of weeding to do in here. This could keep Aiden and I occupied for at least a full day. Just this one bed. I'm just pretty disappointed to see that the sumac is, I think, pretty much a goner. Thankfully it's, you know, it's suckered over here, so I have a little bit of it. And as we make our way around this side, I did do some pruning on these vitex, and that looks significantly better. Of course, I don't need 2 vitex and a crepe myrtle all planted under a live oak, but it's what I have. I did seed buckwheat over here, so we'll see how it does in the shadier section. And of course, we did a major seeding last week before the hurricane. I don't see any of that germinating yet, but hopefully in the next few days, we'll see some of it. I added more buckwheat as well, so I think of all the plants, buckwheat's gonna be the most reliable to just sort of like spring into action and look like something for that September 21st open garden. So fingers crossed, the wave will look more interesting a month from now. And back over here, I just wanted to show you, I love these multi-branched, self-sown sunflowers. You see, that's one plant, but you see it has all these branches and lots of flowers coming on it. And I love how they're just sort of nestled in with these self-sown castor beans. And at the base, you can see the big cotton bolls. That is really always a fun plant, especially when kids visit. You know, you're like, oh, do you know what your t-shirt is made of? And it kind of blows their mind when you get to show them the plant that actually makes the fabric. So, a cool plant that's a big part of North Carolina agriculture that I like to include in the garden. And I am going to post a August container gardening tour because some of the containers are definitely needing to be reevaluated. They're getting to be a bit difficult to keep watered, which is actually completely normal at this time of year. So there's some, you know, changes to be made, and I want to be able to share that advice more specifically. But I just wanted to give you a view of everything here in the driveway bed. Looks great. I think the coleus wall is like usual. It's my favorite thing that I do every single year. If you have any interest in growing vertically, just Google livewall.com. It's a great company, and I'm endlessly impressed with how well the plants perform here. And I'm also really excited to see how my more unusual tropical container edibles are. The turmeric and ginger pots look great. The rice is doing super well. And I'm on fig watch because there's a few figs on this phenomenal. They're not big yet, but I will be ready to harvest. So I do hope you'll tune in for part 2 tomorrow, where I show everything that's growing out back. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and happy gardening.